Okay, moving on to our next work session, Sustainable Future Updated Fee Proposal, Parks and Nature Division. So Jennifer and Ross, welcome, and please take it away.
Thank you. It's great to see you. So about 6 months ago, Ross Hoover presented his vision for sustainable parks. We talked about the ongoing structural budget deficit. Ross has been here about 10 months. So as we're going into the process, as we're moving into 2026, we wanted to take this opportunity to brief you on our vision of the recovery and the conceptual plan to put that in perspective and get your opinion. Secondly, Council gave direction to staff in January of 2024 regarding fee proposals. We have reconsidered these options and have a new proposal and for your review today. And if this meets with council values, we are looking for direction if you're ready for us to bring this to you in a formal adoption process. So next slide, please. I wanted to start with our shared values. The Parks and Nature System enriches our community by stewarding parks that promote health and wellness. These boost economic vitality. We preserve natural areas and ensure access to the outdoors for all. And they certainly play a role in our climate mitigation through cooling systems, mitigating flooding, and our approach right now in our role is protecting this public access and preventing further erosion of services. Due to the structural operating budget deficit, these are at risk without modest incremental changes. Next slide, please. So part one, we're going to review the budget forecast that was presented in March and outline our conceptual recovery plan. Next, thank you. And to provide a little context, I wanted to give this background. Our park system consists of two pieces. There's the Greater Clark Parks District, as well as regional parks. Oversight of the GCPD, which we also call the MPD, is the district board, which happens to be this council. The funding, though there are some fees that come in, is a levy, the Metropolitan Parks District levy. And currently our operating budget, about 65% comes from the Greater Clark Parks District. The operating fund is in deficit. It has been in deficit since 2023. Our annual expenses outpace revenue. We're drawing down a fund balance at an unsustainable rate, and current projections show us being through the fund balance by 2031, aside from the minimum reserves that are required. So we have a timeline in order to address this structural deficit. On the regional park side, this is general fund as well as fees. The oversight is the council. It's 35% of the parks budget. Similarly, it's also in an operating fund deficit. It has been since 2019. And the shortfalls are addressed historically with staff coming to council and requesting additional fund subsidy each year. We could go into the next slide.
So really, Chair?
Yes.
So the regional parks is in a current deficit.
Yes.
Where the GCPD is projected to be in a deficit by 2031, correct?
You're correct. GCPD has a fund balance that we are drawing down. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And it's important to note, because there's confusion on this as well, I think in the general public, this is an operating deficit. It's not capital. We are very healthy in terms of our capital for building new parks, but it's the staffing, the utility, the planning costs that are on the operating side, which aren't keeping pace.
Thank you.
I'd like to elaborate on that and just kind of ask another question. Are we not applying for grants that we potentially could because we do not have the operating funds to maintain it? So for capital expenses, essentially.
Yeah, for capital expenses, we absolutely are applying for grants and currently have active projects that are grant funded. So that's on the capital side. On the operating side, there really are no grants there.
I don't think I made my question clear.
Yeah, sorry.
What I'm asking is if there are grant opportunities for capital projects that we're not applying for because we know that we don't have the operating funds to maintain those new capital facilities.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying. Yes, we are. So in the next capital budget in year 26, we are applying for grant funds for future park development, but none in 26 because we simply aren't building new parks in 26 because of this operating issue.
Next, please. This is the budget forecast for both district and regional parks. The funds are separate. We've aggregated the numbers at the bottom in red. This is what Ross presented in March of 2025, and it shows a growing gap in both district and regional parks. Ross has spent the last 10 months looking into our expenditures, and he has come up with this benchmark statistic, which I think is important to note. For a parks district of our size, our operations budget is only 22% of the national median of peer agencies. The median is lower than the average. So the point is that this is a systemic structural budget. We have tried to spread out to maintain parks with fewer and fewer dollars, and we need increased revenues in order to close this gap as well as to continue to provide these services. And what I see from this as well is that we have time. We are starting now and we have several years to close this gap. And that is the approach we're taking. And again, this would be good feedback for us from council. How quickly would you like us to close this gap? I think next slide, please. This is also from the March 26 presentation. We talked about the outcomes of where we're at. And currently where we are is without additional funding, we're in a decline scenario. With no new funding, we are facing closure of parks and amenities, decline in service levels, end of new parks acquisition and development, as well as growing safety and liability issues. And from the March Council work session, Council directed Ross to create a regional funding task team. He has worked diligently on this the last 6 months, and it's about to kick off. Next slide, please. We've referred to the funding and the revenue sources as a puzzle. We don't want to rely very heavily on fees. We want to diversify other revenue sources. And so this is what it looks like. Well, fees, the GCPD levy pay a part, as well as the transfer we get from the general fund. The regional funding task team, the regional solution we're working on, will play a large part in this role. We have some strategic initiatives we're starting. We have a proposed change request for a new partnership coordinator starting in 2026. This is a very typical position of a large park system, and they work on sponsorships, partnerships, providing enhanced services, as well as enhanced profitability. And they would work on operationalizing our system. We're also looking at operational measures, cost recovery policy, as well as business efficiencies and resource sustainability to do what we can to be more efficient with the resources we have. There's still some options. Something that we will bring to you early next year is some information on a work session for a cost recovery policy. We have 36 different contracts for land owned by parks. All the contracts are slightly different. We're going through a process of reviewing them, and there are opportunities. If we provide land and rent for free, should the council also pay utilities for that site? Or would we like that organization to pay for those? This will take some time to gather, but we will bring this back to you for review. And if we go to the next slide, what we've laid out is a recovery plan for the next couple of years with these different sources and opportunities, both to increase revenue and realize some additional savings. The regional solution, the committee that's starting the phase 1 examination is kicking off this month or early next month. We anticipate having a recommendation to council on what that regional solution should be. I would say Q2 of 2026. We are anticipating a regional solution vote in Q3 of 2027, which, assuming the vote is positive, provides additional monies in 2028. And at that point, we would still have 4.5 million in the fund balance we're drawing down. Fees also play an important part in this, which is, again, part 2 of our presentation. If council is comfortable with our recommendations, we're looking at some fee increase revenue from 26. There are opportunities to continue to expand the fees, bring us up to regional peers. So we show that continued. The GCPD levy plays an important role in this. Well, it wasn't approved last year. A 1% levy increase in bank capacity this year would provide 78,000 of additional funding in 26. And we show that carrying through. The partnerships coordinator, if approved, will start partnerships development. And we see and anticipate positive partnerships revenue starting in 27 and 28. There's also opportunities for savings with contracts, as well as efficiencies such as irrigation reduction or moving to parking kiosks for contactless payment. Instead of paying, right now we pay temporary staff to collect cash at parks. And so we keep a lower amount of net profit. So quite a wide bevy of solutions that we're implementing. And if we go into the next slide, I wanted to put some preliminary numbers to what these various increases would do. We show a gap of 2.2 million in 2030. And with these moderate increases, you see parking fees would make up 14% of the deficit, GCPD 13%, and so on. We still show leaning heavily on the regional solution. And I want to emphasize that this is the minimum. We do want to do more, but the point is here that these small incremental changes do add up holistically.
Yes.
Ginny, really quick, you mentioned
Yeah.
on page 8, by 2027, in addition to irrigation reduction, you're looking at installing parking kiosks to avoid having to have temporary staff collecting cash. I'm not familiar with all the parks in Clark County.
course.
Which are some of the parks that are currently utilizing temporary staff to collect cash?
Do you want to?
Yeah, we have 4 regional parks where we collect parking fees. And those 4 regional parks, 2 of them are within the GCPD boundaries and 2 of them are outside the GCPD. Salmon Creek Klein Line, Louisville, Frenchman's Bar, and Vancouver Lake.
Thank you.
We have a map a few slides in to show that.
Okay,
so-
thank you. Thank you.
No, I
ahead of
thought that would be useful.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, thank you.
So there are many reasons to go away from the temporary staffing. There's audit concerns with the cash handling, but installing kiosks is a capital expense that takes money. And so our plan is to put that in as requests for 26 for implementation in 27. So that's why I laid it out in the schedule.
What does one of those kiosks go for? I'm curious, you know?
Eric, do you know?
Got it. Thank you.
Quick question on that also, like, so I didn't catch this in our one-on-one the other day. We can use capital funds to install them, but the revenue will be usable for operation and maintenance. So that's an actual really good shift that we need. Okay, I didn't catch on to that the other day.
Yeah.
I'd just like to repeat 8 to 10,000 per kiosk because I'm not sure
Thank you.
if that got captured in our recording.
All right, if we could, I'm about to transition to part 2. I think we need to go back a couple slides. So we wanted to focus in now on a single part of this, which is looking at proposed fee increases. Staff have been seeing this operational deficit for some time. They came to council in January of 2024 after doing quite a bit of public outreach and research. And they leaned very heavily on expanding parking fees and other fees to close this operating gap. In January 10th, the proposal wasn't supported by council. And the key feedback was the fee increases were too broad. They were looking at expanding to community parks, sports parks, and other parks. Council was extremely concerned about the importance of ensuring equitable access. There was a desire to see more partnerships and cost sharing, as well as to model organizations like Metro for diversified funding. And what we've demonstrated is that actually is the approach that Ross is following right now. So we've listened and we have a revised proposal. The fee increases we're proposing are 65% of the total presented in 2024. And so if we could go into those right now, conscious of my time. Thank you. I think we've covered this. The fee increases we're proposing right now would bring in an extra $262,000 a year. This is an important step in reducing operation shortfalls and a key term to long-term financial stability. We go to the next slide, please. Again, currently, we have 111 parks and sites. We collect parking fees at only 4 of them. Salmon Creek Klein Line is in the Greater Clark Parks District. The other 3, Louisville, Frenchman's Bar, and Vancouver Lake, are in regional parks. I also wanted to point out the Washington State Park System. There are 3 parks actually in Clark County. There's Battleground Lake, there is Paradise Point, there is also an island, Reed Island State Park off of Washougal. So I just wanted to point that out. There are some within the county. Previously, the proposal in 2024 wanted to expand parking fee collection to 14 additional sites, bringing this up to 18. After discussing this with our staff, our proposal to you today is to not expand anywhere this year, but to apply parking fee increases to only the 4 regional parks we currently collect. Even with doing that, we'd still bring in 70% of the proposed revenue. If we could go to the next slide, please. We looked at a few updated parking fee comparisons, Washington State Park, City of Vancouver as our neighbors, as well as Oregon Metro and also Pierce County. Currently today, we charge 4 different fees depending on what you're driving, although 96% of residents arrive at parks via cars. Washington State Parks charges a $10 daily fee, City of Vancouver, $6 to $10, Oregon Metro, $5 for cars, $7 for bus. Pierce County has 2 parks where this applied to. One of them was $7 a day, discounts for seniors and handicapped persons at $3, and sometimes there were some lower fees for motorcycles. But typically for a non-resident, you are looking at $7 to $15 for parking. In terms of annual passes, we currently charge $30, which is, if you drive a car, 10 visits pays for that. Washington State Parks next month is going to an annual park pass fee of $45. That's why it's asterisk. City of Vancouver, $50. Oregon Metro, various fees of $40. Oregon Metro is also looking at increasing their fees. Oregon State Parks, it was in the news, they've also increased their fees because everybody is facing the shortage. Our recommendation, consistent with last year, is parking fee adjustments. We are proposing to only apply parking fee adjustments to the 4 regional parks we currently charge. No parking fee expansion yet. We're recommending collapsing the fees into one single daily parking fee, just for simplicity of cash handling. The daily parking fee, we're recommending increasing from $3 a day to $5 a day, and the annual parking pass, $30 a day to $40 a day. Estimated annual revenue from this is almost $250,000. We're still the most affordable in the region. And as a point, the last parking fee increase was 15 years ago in 2010. It still puts us as being extremely affordable in the region. A new thing we're proposing in response to council's concerns about looking to other modern park systems and ensuring that we have equitable access to these parks would be a new program, Free Access Days. This is modeled after Metro and Washington State Parks. It would provide for 12 free access days per year. It's distributed through the seasons. In 2025, 5 of these are weekend days. In 2026, I think I have notes also, about 5 weekend days and 1 Friday. These Washington State parks, our staff thought because of the congruency, it would make a lot of sense that if free fishing weekends at Battleground Lake, we would offer the same thing. This would be a reduction in fee collection of about 6%, and that is factored into our numbers. But we're really excited to offer this. This is an enhancement of services we don't offer now. Parks Board offered an additional thought, which we really like, and that is to include some annual park passes in libraries so that other people could check them out and we could continue to enhance the access. So with this, we're expanding access that we don't have now while really keeping moderate fee increases.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Are you suggesting using the same dates as Washington
Yes.
State does? Because just a thought is that, well, if we could encourage people to go to the state parks on those free days, and then we could have other free days. So the net access, I think, might
Would be.
It's just a thought.
It's a good thought. This we can certainly consider that when we bring it back. Thank you. So with that, next slide, please. We'll go into our picnic shelter comparables. Again, we're looking at our neighbors, and Clark County has various fees depending on the capacity, and our picnic shelters are very high quality. We charge a daily fee, not an hourly fee. All of the other comparables, these are fees charged per hour. They also charge higher rates on weekends. We don't do any of these things yet, and there's certainly quite a bit of room to grow. However, council direction from 2024 really emphasized access for families. So our recommendation in response to this is to only raise these daily fees up by $10 for each category. If we go to the next slide. Thank you, Rebecca. So a flat $10 increase, keep these per day, no hourly rates or weekend surcharges for now, and the estimated additional revenue is actually the same as what they proposed in 2024. Feedback from the Parks Advisory Board was we keep considering revising these, maybe going to morning, afternoon, consider bringing in weekends, and we would consider looking at this again and bringing it back to you. We currently have some staffing challenges with the changeover, but we'll be looking at that next year. So there'll be a slow progression of bringing us up to market speed. But this is a very moderate increase that also brings in substantial revenue while keeping this accessibility. And then finally, we're looking at meeting rooms. This is the Bud Van Cleve Community Room. We charge between $15 and $35 per hour, depending on residency, nonprofit status. Comparing to Vancouver, Pierce County, and Oregon Metro, our rates are substantially lower. So our recommendation, if we go forward, mirrors the lower end of what was recommended in 2024. If we could go to the next slide, please.
Jenny, really quick.
Yes.
The Clark County Parks and Nature Site Room, BBC CMR.
Yes.
What is that?
Acronyms. It's the Bud Van Cleve Community Room at Luke Jensen Park.
Okay.
Sorry, thank you. The meeting room fee adjustments, we're looking at a two-tier pricing recommendation. The hourly fee goes to $150 per hour, but for residents and nonprofits, because this would be adjustment, we would go up to $50 an hour. We are still considerably more affordable than our neighbors, and we're prioritizing community access. We're estimating revenue neutral, but over time, this will bring in more funds. So I wanted to show you the impact. So the next slide, remember we have two different sources. This is for regional parks. General fund has historically helped us with our shortfall. And in 2026, these projections do not include any change requests, but we're looking at approximately a shortfall of $250,000. With these fee implementations, we'd bring in almost $200,000 it's about an 80% reduction of what we're looking at. So quite substantial for the general fund. If we go to the GCPD, next slide, please. It is a more moderate increase. Again, remember, there's only one park there, but this is an extra $63,000 in revenue, and it reduces the GCPD shortfall. Remember, we're drawing this down from the fund balance by 8.6%. You know, activating the 1% as well as the bank capacity also brings in an additional 78,000. So these incremental increases do add up together, though they hit the funds in different ways. And next slide, please. Raising fees is a serious matter, and it's something we have been considering for a long time, since 2022 all the way up till today. The engagement activities were 4 subcommittee meetings in spring of 22, 3 public meetings, a 30-day public comment period in June of 23, stakeholder meetings with nonprofits, and we had a special Parks Advisory Board meeting last week on the 10th. The Parks Advisory Board meeting did approve this with comments. They did note that we still have quite a bit of room for expansion. They wanted us to consider reviewing the fees, expanding to other parks over time to help close this gap. And in summary, we're proposing a new free access day program to support equitable community access. These moderate rate adjustments really do help over time reduce the operations budget shortfalls. Our conservative estimates are looking at $262,000 in additional funding. This assumes a 15% drop in bookings for fee adjustments and also the free access program. And we still are affordable while, you know, looking at an incremental approach to close the operating structural deficit. So with that, a bit longer than 15 minutes, we really wanted to get your take on our approach. Any comments? Is this in line with your values? And are you ready for us to bring this back to you for formal adoption?
Council, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for this information. This is really eye-opening. I think one of the data points that you didn't mention here that's on slide number 5 is that the park operations budget is 22% of the national median for peer agencies. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that, but that is pretty low.
Yeah, there's a annual study from National Recreation Parks Association that gathers data from agencies across the country. It compares several different measures, and those measures we can benchmark against. And so what this measures is our annual operating budget as a ratio to acres managed, and we're at 22% of the national median. So
Okay, well, that's a strong case that we need to make some changes, and it looks like you've put a lot of thought into that. I'd encourage you to try to implement the shelter fees for AM and PM to double the amount that we would bring in, and also include weekends, which would more than double it as soon as you can. And then also that idea about maybe excluding the state park focus day from fees. I think that's a good one. But I'm in support.
Sure. I was going to say that I really do appreciate that despite being below average of what other jurisdictions are charging in terms of fees, you're making a very thoughtful approach of not trying to get to that same limit, right? Because then we risk losing people and not wanting to visit our parks. But I do agree with the PAB, the Parks Advisory Board, that over time we need to start looking at getting to where these other jurisdictions are in terms of fees, so that we are competitive and we're not in these deficits. But I do support the current proposal.
Go ahead.
So thank you for this work. Much appreciated. And I would just kind of reiterate what I had said in our earlier conversation, that I feel like we should increase even further the shelter fees. I really do. Those are what I would consider a luxury. That is not something that somebody with, that's not an equity issue. And parking is more of an equity issue. I absolutely appreciate the concept of the library passes, and I think that we really should supply with them as many as they need, because realistically, the only person that's going to go out of their way to go to the library to check out a pass to park at one of our parks is somebody who really does need that discount. So I think that's an excellent approach. I was wondering, when we're talking about meeting rooms, it wasn't quite clear to me what you were, so $35 an hour, or 15 is for nonprofit and residents, 35 is for profits or non-residents. Is that what we're charging now or what we're going to?
That's right. The $15 per hour is the nonprofit rate currently. And so the proposed shift is to shift that to 50 and change the $35 fee to $150.
Okay, I didn't see that. So, okay, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, anytime you're talking nonprofits, definitely want to give them an opportunity to be more affordable there. And then the last thing that I had is, and I would ask for your opinion on this, and there was a lot of community engagement done, but it's been quite some time. So I'm wondering if you feel like there should be some additional community engagement in the process.
We considered that in our team meeting. The highest impact is the parking fees and the annual parking pass, and these are fees that we've been out in the community talking about, and we are not. Those are the exact same fees that we've been discussing for 3 years. So we felt like there was not a need to do that. With the picnic shelters and the meeting room fees, we're also on the lower end of what was recommended. So we're consistent with all that was discussed in those previous years. And if anything, this is a lowering, especially with keeping the parking fee adjustments at only the 4 parks, not expanding to the 14.
Okay, great. I think that's a great answer. And then the last thing that I would say is, I'm looking at this, I've always looked at this from an equity lens. And I kind of commented earlier with the shelters versus the parking. The ultimate inequity in this would be to not have any parks to be able to access. Then the second worst is, what are the barriers to accessing what we actually do have? And that would be where the parking would come in. And so I really feel like I'm supportive of increasing these fees, because the alternative is essentially start closing some of our parks, which again is the ultimate inequity. But I think we should, be open-minded about this. And as we go about the sustainability, the regional sustainability, if we can, identify a different source of funding, I think we ought to look at potentially reeling back these parking fees eventually, if we're able to. I don't support it in the sense that it would cause a strain to the system and prevent people from being able to access parks. But if we can find another source, I think we should look at either reeling back the parking or developing an even more robust program for people to be able to gain access if they have financial challenge. So that's not for this immediate conversation, but it's something to hold on to and think about in the future.
I think that would be our goal. And right now, I think it's a good time to hear the comment. We're trying to broaden our revenue streams. Some of these will take time, and we're trying to maintain access to all county-owned parks at minimum service levels. For exactly that point, we are in a transition period. We have a hill to climb, but I really believe we will get there. And so I think with these moderate and incremental changes, this really helps every year as we're waiting on the regional solution.
Chair, I just wanted to clarify that I do believe there are equity issues involved with affordable shelter opportunities. I mean, as a dad who's been to many shelters as the option for birthdays or quinceañeros or you're choosing between that or Chuck E. Cheese or bouncy houses, which are way more expensive. And there's lots of large family gatherings where that is really the only option to stay out of the rain and have a large community event. And it is affordable. And I think that is a equity issue. I understand there's prioritization of that, but it's an important community value that you all provide. So thank you.
Thank you. I know, I believe that you've hit a sweet spot as close as you could come between the revenue that is needed and keeping things accessible and affordable. So it's a tough to get to that point. So I think you've done a very good job with that. I would just echo the library idea as far as having passes. I think that's very good. I think there is some room to increase the shelters, but I also agree. You need to keep them as affordable as possible. But I think it's a very good deal at this point. And related to I'm happy just supporting this as is, but I think there is some room to maybe gain a little bit more. And the annual pass, I'm thinking it could, if we wanted to do something similar to what we do now, with it takes 10 visits to recoup your investment. I think if we went up to $50, then it still would be 10 visits to recoup your investment in an annual pass. I'm really excited about the regional solutions. So that I think will benefit all of the cities and the county moving forward. So thank you. That's a lot of work to pull all of that together. And I know you've been out meeting with the cities, Ross, all these 10 months that you've been here. So wanted to recognize that work. And also, I just want to also say the partnership coordinator, I think I'm very excited about that as well, because I think there's the opportunity to utilize our parks even to a greater extent and build those partnerships to make that successful. And I think one of those partnerships might be CTRAN, where if there are free days, maybe there could be a free bus ride out to take a bus to a park. How about that?
Yeah. Chair.
So anyway, so just thanks so much for your work on this. And I'd say please bring this back to us, however you may refine it. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know that this is currently happening, but I'm curious. Do any of these parks currently host vendors or food carts during the summer months, or the drier months, when there's generally an increase of attendance?
Great question. So the focus of that partnerships coordinator role is really that. How do we activate our parks? How do we invite community? How do we make people feel welcome by programming and inviting and partnering with local nonprofits, local for-profits, so food trucks, which we currently do not coordinate. And so that role is really key, the key capacity to ensure that the county is playing a role with that. What you do see are park rentals currently, where there's a private triathlon. That private triathlon may have lined up food carts for that event, but not more broadly.
Yeah, but just to be clear, that if we were to ever consider that in the future, that there would be a fee associated for allowing a food cart on site.
Exactly. There is a revenue benefit to the whole park system when you work with local for-profits in particular.
I don't want to have to take a grill every time I go to the park, so it'd be nice to be able to spend time on a summer day at a park where there's food available.
We like our parks. Have we given you enough feedback?
It's been wonderful. I do want to clarify what I've heard. adjust the recommendation for the free days so that we provide even more access instead of the same. Do you want us to come back again in a work session with updated fees, or are you ready for us to make small adjustments and bring it to you in a formal process? My thinking was so much work has been done with what's been developed as well as the community engagement. And given where we are in the year, my thought was to move forward if council's ready so that we can implement this in 26 and then in 26 re-examine the picnic shelters and other pieces.
That sounds perfect. Any other input from the council? I think we're ready.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
you. Thank you all.
Okay, this concludes our work session. We'll reconvene at 1 o'clock for council time. So with that, no objection, this work session is adjourned.